Welcome back to this edition of Mompreneurs, the real deal, where we get real and raw with our mompreneurs. And we are so excited to have our guest, Lydia Knight, with us today. The first segment, we talked a lot about her Mormon upbringing, some limiting beliefs, but honestly, she conquered that and made everyone believe in her. And so to overcome those limiting beliefs that way, which is phenomenal. So, I know there was a period of time, Lydia, where you were a single mom. So I know, the story, the part we're at right now, you're at home in New York City, working from home, supporting your husband at the time, and your little girl's working with you, which is phenomenal. What happened? What evolved from there? How did you end up becoming single in New York and working from home?
Yes, so we moved quite a bit. So the first chapter was in New York, then we moved to Nashville, and I was financially supporting our family, and my husband at the time was pursuing his acting career, and the marriage started getting very bad. So he was very abusive. We were in these abusive cycles, and what is a wonderful thing about entrepreneurship is you get to become, because you have a good reason to become a higher and higher version of yourself. So as I became more empowered as a woman, what happened is I left the cult that I grew up in. I left the oppressive religion that I grew up in, and it started opening my eyes to how bad my marriage was. Because I went from this prescribed, like, no matter what is happening, you exist to support your husband, to actually, this is really messed up, and I don't want to be a part of this. So that's really what happened is I started waking up in multiple different ways, and I decided to ask for a divorce. Looking back, I'm like, oh, younger self, you could have done that a lot earlier. But celebrating that I got to the point where, as our standards become higher, which is so healthy, we start realizing what doesn't meet our standards in the way that people treat us and the relationships that we're in.
You talk about that, and I think immediately of as we level up, as we learn, as we grow, as we evolve as human beings through our experience, we throw out what doesn't serve us anymore. And so you were in a cult, and this is fascinating to me because I don't know anything about cult life or how do you get out of that? Were there unique hurdles that you faced? Because earlier you spoke about how important it was having that support system, and those people supported you in your entrepreneurship and along the way. And now what you're doing is you're shifting completely from what they believe in. So talk a little bit about that exit from that belief structure, and what kind of hurdles did you have to face personally and or professionally, that you were navigating so you could continue to move forward and up level to those things that are serving you.
Oh, for sure. This is actually a really happy part of the story because when you leave a cult, there's a lot of programming that you need to overcome. And just because you know something intellectually does not mean that your nervous system, your body, all of your, the subconscious, the thought patterns, that's changed. That's why so often we're in a position where why did I do that? Like, I know better, I know what's healthy. Why did I eat all that junk? It's these questioning pieces that we reflect at ourselves, which is where we're misaligned with what we intellectually know and actions that we take. And so when I left a cult, I intellectually knew that what I had been told my whole life was not true. And I still lived in fear every single day. And I was still terrified to take action because my nervous system, my body hadn't caught up to that. So, again, from a point of survival, I needed to figure out how to be okay, how to deprogram from the cult so that I could live a normal life. And I was learning about neuroscience and the brain, and I created a system to deprogram so that I could live a normal life. And it worked. And it worked very, very well. And I was grateful for that. I was able to go on, graduate summa cum laude, get married, have a baby, be an entrepreneur continually and do the things that I wanted to without living in fear every day. And what came up later in my entrepreneurial journey is the most successful business that we have ever created end up ended up being built off of the very principles that I developed to deprogram myself from a cult. and how impactful that is in all these different areas. So sometimes the darkest points in our lives turn into some of the greatest things that we can offer humanity and some of the best ideas that we can have as entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. You never know where that's going to come from. And I think, healing yourself, you were able to see, wow, this really worked. I could help the world with this. And so I'd love for you to kind of dive deeper into that, because that's really where, your entrepreneurial journey gets even more exciting. Especially being, in the medical field, and especially dealing with a lot of eating disorders. Can you tell us how you use deprogramming, you know, how that idea came about? I'm kind of leading the story, but tell us what happened when you realized the deprogramming worked for you and how you chose to follow that dream.
Yes. So I started out as a health coach, or that was, one of my businesses, and it became so successful that I started coaching other health coaches how to be successful. So I coached as a business coach over 400 health coaches. We had more than 8,000 clients in our group. It grew very quickly, and because I was supposed to be a model of health, I kept on getting, in quotes, healthier and healthier. And what I didn't know at the time is that restrictive eating and restrictive dieting is the number one cause of eating disorders. So I developed a life-threatening eating disorder. I was eating out of control, and then I was restricting for weeks, trying to make up for it. And in this cycle that I so desperately wanted to keep a secret from everyone. It was so much shame. It was a thing that I knew that if anyone found out, it would be like the end of my career. And so I tried for years to do anything that would work. I tried so many things. And the story was the same any solution I tried. You're broken. You're always going to be broken. This is going to be a struggle for the rest of your life. The best you can do is manage it. So when I was at a rock bottom place, even questioning if it made sense to keep living, if this was going to be the way that I would have to live, I remembered how I deprogrammed from a cult. I thought I would never go back to those principles. I thought it was just like this great thing that worked for one thing and you put it in a box and you forget about it. And I wondered if I could deprogram from my eating disorder like I deprogrammed from the cult. Could I deprogram from diet culture? Could I deprogram from this pattern? And in 1 week, I ended my eating disorder. I've never had an issue since. There is no compulsion, there's no draw to that. And so how it pivoted was I started teaching other people how to do this. I'm like, well, this worked for me. Could this work for other people? And we've now helped over 1,000 women be completely free from disordered eating with the same principles that had come up from way back in my story.
It's really inspiring, and I love how you used everything that you overcame to develop and then to serve others. And a lot of times in business, people make the mistake of guessing what might work, but you really you did it yourself. You proved the concept to yourself, then you proved it with a few other people, and then you scaled that. But I have a question that goes back to kind of the eating disorder, because there's a lot of shame, and you talked about that secret shame. And I want to dive into that a little bit, because a lot of mompreneurs have a secret shame. It might be, I'm not spending enough time with my children, or I should be doing, like, we have all these things, the shoulds that were ingrained in us. So can you talk a little bit about that secret shame? Because you still operated and ran a business despite having that, and you didn't let that hold you back even in your darkest days. So I think that would be really relevant to our viewers to know, how did you navigate that and still manage to show up and add value to other human beings along the way? And then how did you move out of that shame?
Yes, thank you for asking. I think that's so important for every woman in the world to examine, which is, what am I feeling shame about and where does that really come from? And for a long time, it was just super hard. I remember one day where I was coaching someone over the phone, and I was telling them very happily the great health tips that they needed. And then they were responding, and I muted and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed because I felt so much shame being out of control with my own health and telling them what they should do. And I felt this deep sense of imposter syndrome, and then unmuted and got all perky again and let them know the next thing they needed to. And so sometimes it's just a horrible slog for a long time. And I think that's why it's so important as entrepreneurs to really be focused on our clients and heart-centered, because what kept me going is I can't let the people down that are in front of me. Like, I've got to figure out my stuff, but I can't stop and not help the people that need help just because I'm figuring something out, which I think is an important paradigm shift that is very healthy to make. And the other thing is that I didn't figure it out. What actually happened is, after years of feeling such shame around this and trying to hide it, I decided to commit career suicide, where I got on a national habits of health call where everyone thought they were going to get healthy holiday tips from me. And instead, I just came clean. I was like, you think I'm healthy and I'm not. I am out of control with food. This is what is happening. I don't have a solution. I just have to be honest, because that integrity just came to a breaking point for me where I had to be truthful. And I thought that I had ended my career, and I cried myself to sleep. I woke up in the morning to hundreds of messages, totally unexpected, that were all me too. I've been pretending. I'm secretly binge eating behind the scenes. Everyone thinks I'm healthy and I'm not. And so it's that drive to be in service to other people. Like, that's when I started looking at how could we figure this out? Because it wasn't just me that was struggling. Because I was honest, I found there were hundreds of other people that were struggling the same way when I thought I was alone.
You know, that gave me chills, and we do have to take a brief break, but I want to applaud you for your authenticity there. And so many times in business, and I see this a lot, is we think we have to put on the persona of success, but the reality is when we share vulnerably, that's what allows people who really need our help, our consumers that really need what we offer, especially in service-based businesses, to draw in and to step in and say, oh, okay, me too, how can we do this together? And I think that truly probably strengthened you as a human, you as a female, you as an entrepreneur, and it also truly helped every single person that you were serving in your community, because they saw, oh, okay, she's not perfect, and they were able to take that deep breath. And you know, when we model that behavior, it gives other people permission to do the same. And so I just wanted to applaud you. We do have to take a brief break, but we'll be right back after these messages.